The illusion of controlling burnout fools so many people. You work hard, take breaks when needed, and push through like you always have. But let me ask you something. Does burnout ever really go away? Or does it just take a back seat until the next wave hits? It's like playing a game of burnout whack-a-mole. You think you've got it handled, but just when you start feeling normal again, the exhaustion creeps back. Your energy dips, your patience wears thin, the stress that shouldn't feel overwhelming suddenly does. And the small things that never used to bother you, now set you off more than they should. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Burnout isn't something you control. It's something you prevent. And the difference between managing it and actually stopping it comes down to something most people ignore: emotional wellness. Now, before you start thinking this is a go ahead and cry video, it's not. But there are some hard truths you need to face, because if you don't, burnout isn't just going to stick around, it's going to get worse. So if you're serious about getting ahead of burnout, instead of constantly recovering from it, keep watching. Because what I'm about to tell you will hopefully change the way you see burnout forever. You might think you have burnout under control, but have you ever wondered why it keeps coming back? Why, no matter how much you rest, recharge, or take time off, that feeling of exhaustion never fully goes away? Most people believe burnout is just about being overworked. That if they push a little harder, sleep in an extra hour, or take a vacation, they'll bounce back. And for a little while, it seems like it works. Until it doesn't. That's because what most people are doing isn't actually recovering. It's just delaying burnout. You push through, telling yourself you'll slow down after this deadline, this project, this stressful week. But when the pressure lifts, do you actually feel better or just less exhausted? The cycle keeps repeating. The energy dips. The motivation fades. You find yourself even more irritable, more drained, more disconnected. And yet, you convince yourself you've got it handled because you've been here before and you've always powered through. Here's the hard truth. If you were really in control of burnout, you shouldn't still be feeling this way. Burnout isn't just about work. It's not just about stress. It's about emotional depletion. And if you don't start taking care of your emotional wellness, no amount of pushing through is going to save you. But here's something most people never stop to ask. If burnout is really about emotional depletion, then what are you doing to recover emotionally? For most people, the answer is nothing. Not because they don't want to, but because they don't even realize they need to. Emotional wellness is the part of burnout that gets ignored. It's easy to notice when you're physically drained, but emotional exhaustion, that sneaks up on you. And here's how it happens. One day, you realize you're snapping at small things. An email, a delayed meeting, like I had today, someone leaving their dishes in the sink, things that wouldn't normally bother you suddenly feel unbearable. Or maybe you start losing interest in things you should enjoy. A hobby, a show you used to binge watch, even spending time with friends. Everything feels like a chore, and nothing really excites you the way it used to. And then there's the strangest part. You tell yourself you should be fine. You're getting enough sleep, you're handling work, you're keeping up with responsibilities, but something still feels off, and you can't quite explain why. That's emotional burnout. And the worst part, you don't even realize it's happening. Over time, you stop questioning it. You tell yourself, it's just stress, just a rough patch, just something that'll pass. But it doesn't. You start accepting exhaustion as your new normal. But let me be clear, it's not normal. It's a sign your emotional reserves are empty. And if you don't do something about it, burnout isn't just going to stick around, it's going to keep getting worse. So how do you know if you're running on empty? How do you know if burnout is controlling you instead of the other way around? It's easy to tell yourself you're fine, but let's make this real. I'm going to ask you 3 quick questions. Answer them honestly, because what you realize in the next few seconds might surprise you. First question, when you take a break, do you actually feel recharged or just less exhausted? Think about that for a second. Do your breaks actually restore your energy, or do they just make burnout slightly more tolerable? If you're not fully refreshed, that's a sign your body is resting, but your mind isn't recovering. And if your mind isn't recovering, burnout is still in control. Second question, do small things like an email, a minor mistake, or a last-minute change set you off more than they should? If you've caught yourself snapping at something trivial, getting irritated over something minor, or feeling overwhelmed by things that used to be easy, that's not just stress. That's emotional burnout showing up as frustration, impatience, or even apathy. And the longer it lingers, the harder it is to reset. Last question. Do you feel guilty or anxious when you're not being productive? If slowing down makes you uncomfortable, if you feel like you should be doing something at all times, that's not control. That's burnout running the show. When productivity starts defining your self-worth, you're not just overworked, you're emotionally drained. If you said yes to even one of those questions, it's time to rethink how you're handling burnout. Because pushing through isn't fixing it. It's just hiding the problem. And emotional burnout doesn't just slow you down. It convinces you that stopping isn't an option. And the longer you ignore it, the deeper it takes hold and the harder it becomes to break free. If you're serious about getting out of the burnout cycle for good, my book, Break Free from Burnout, will guide you step by step through that process. Inside, you'll find the motivation meter, a powerful tool designed to help you pinpoint exactly what's draining your energy and, more importantly, how to rebuild it. This isn't just about recognizing burnout. It's about understanding where you stand and what to do next. You'll find the full breakdown inside the book. Check the link in the description. But awareness alone isn't enough. Now that you know where you stand, what's your next move? Because burnout isn't something you control. It's something you prevent. And that starts with building the resilience to protect your energy before burnout takes hold and learning how to recover fully if you're already feeling drained. You can't just stop working. You can't quit life, but you can stop burnout before it drains you completely by strengthening your ability to bounce back faster, manage stress better, and protect your energy every single day. So how do you actually do that? It starts with 3 things. First, build emotional awareness. You can't fix what you don't see. Most people don't even realize they're emotionally burnt out until they're deep in it. They think stress is just part of life, that snapping at people is just a bad mood, or that feeling numb is just a phase. It's not. It's a warning sign. Emotional burnout doesn't hit all at once. It creeps in slowly, convincing you that exhaustion is normal. Start paying attention to when your patience wears thin, when your motivation dips, and when you feel disconnected from things you should care about. The earlier you catch it, the easier it is to stop burnout before it takes over. Second, create real recovery rituals. Not all breaks are created equal. Scrolling on your phone isn't recovery. Binge watching Netflix while your mind is racing about tomorrow's to-do list isn't recovery. Real recovery happens when you do things that actually replenish your emotional energy. This could be journaling, exercising, deep breathing, a creative hobby, or whatever makes you feel lighter, not just distracted. The key is to make recovery a consistent habit, not just something you do when you've already hit a wall. Even 5 minutes of real recovery each day can make a huge difference over time. Third, set boundaries that actually stick. A lot of people talk about setting boundaries, but here's where most go wrong. They say no to everything instead of learning when to say yes strategically. If you're constantly saying yes to things that drain you and no to things that could restore you, you're keeping yourself in a burnout loop. Boundaries aren't just about protecting your time. They're about protecting your energy. That means making choices that'll keep you balanced, not just productive, like saying yes to activities that truly recharge you while cutting out obligations that deplete you. Because at the end of the day, burnout doesn't disappear when you finally get a break. It disappears when you take control of your energy and make recovery a daily priority. Now, here is the part where you decide what happens next. You can keep pushing through, hoping burnout won't catch up with you again, or you can take control by making real, lasting changes to your emotional wellness so that burnout doesn't just fade temporarily, but stays gone for good. Because here's another hard truth. Burnout isn't something you fix once and forget about. It's something you prevent by staying ahead of it. And that starts with identifying what's draining you before it gets worse. That's where the motivation meter inside my book, Break Free from Burnout, comes in. It's designed to help you pinpoint what's draining your energy, where you're out of balance, and what you need to do to recover. And if you're ready for a structured approach to burnout prevention, check out my course on the Great Discovery Learning Platform. This is where I walk you step by step through building emotional resilience, setting boundaries that actually work, and creating burnout-proof habits. That link is also, of course, in the description. Now, I want to hear from you. What's one small thing you can do today to improve your emotional wellness? Drop it in the comments. I'll be reading and responding. And your answer might even help someone else who's struggling. And before you go, if burnout is draining your mental energy, check out my video packed with practical strategies to clear mental clutter, regain focus, and stop burnout from taking over your thoughts. Click here to watch it next, because burnout doesn't disappear when you ignore it. It fades when you take control of your energy, build resilience, and make recovery a daily priority. Let's do that together. Thanks for watching. I'll see you online soon.